consoles, games, and magazines. But I'm not gonna talk about the current generation games. I'm gonna talk about the games from the past, including the shitty ones that suck ass. But where do I begin? First of all, let's talk about my game library. I currently have over 430 games for 29 game consoles I own, including current generation consoles. Some of the games are from my childhood, and other games I just simply got them because I saw them in Angry Video Game Nerd video reviews. It seems that his frustration with all these terrible games has somehow rubbed off on me as well. Anyway, about my consoles, well, I pretty much have a little bit of everything, starting with the Magnavox Odyssey, the Odyssey 100, a Sears Pong console, all the way to the GameCube. I'd pretty much say that I have a lot of ground to cover. But for this video, I will focus on two consoles, the Atari 5200 and the Atari 7800. The Angry Video Game Nerd already talked about this console in his Volume 2 DVD, but I will go over the things he left out about this console and further explain about other things he did mention. For instance, the Nerd's Atari 5200 is a Model 1, which has 4 controller ports and that weird box thing that connects the AC adapter and the video output of the console at the same time, while my Atari 5200 is a Model 2, and as mentioned in his review, this one has only 2 controller ports instead of 4. Although it's bullshit because Atari only covered the 2 controller port holes in the plastic cover, but when you take the plastic off, the 4 controller port holes are still there. Only the 2 center ones are empty. What a load of donkey fuck. Also, the Nerd never explained the reason for the closet on top of the console. What the hell? Who put that there? Anyway, that closet is for storing your controllers. Yes, that's right. According to the instructions, you're supposed to curl the wire around the joystick and store the controller facing down. Well, no wonder the controllers malfunctioned. You can also leave the controllers connected and store the controller inside. But then again, I think the Nerd's idea was much better. When I got my 5200 on eBay, I got it for $20 and with 3 controllers. But the real question is, do the controllers work? Let's find out. First, let's try Pac-Man. Whoa, what a difference from the 2600 version. Well, Pac-Man works. Let's try another game. Missile Command. This is a game where the analog controller truly works better than a digital controller. The game was meant to be played with a trackball, but the analog controller works just beautifully. Frogger. Again, a huge improvement over the 2600 version. Everything works fine. In conclusion, the Atari 5200 had great graphics that matched the arcade games very closely, but the controllers sucked harder than the Double Dragon movie that was released in 1994, and we all know how much that sucked. But anyway, if your controllers work fine, then it's worth it to have this console as part of your collection. Let's move on to the next console, the Atari 7800. The design was sleeker than the 2600 and 5200, and it was also more compact. It was backward compatible with the 2600 games without the need of an adapter like in the 5200, and the controllers were changed to digital again, having a simple joystick and one button on each side. After playing with these controllers for a while, you'll notice that it will get harder and harder to play with them because of their shitty design. It is awkward the way you use the controllers, making them hard on your hands. Of course, not only could you play your 2600 games, but the 7800 had its own library of games, of which many were improved versions of their 2600 counterparts. Sadly, not too many games were made for this console, and many peripherals that were planned for release were cancelled. Remember a while back I said that the controllers for the 5200 were as bad as the Double Dragon movie that was released in 1994? Well, guess what? There's a Double Dragon game for the Atari 7800. And this is not a reproduction cartridge. This is the original Double Dragon cartridge. And as crappy as it looks, well, let's find out how the game really plays. Jeez. Trying to get the game into this console is like trying to stick a bat up your nose. That's right, Double Dragon on the Atari 7800. It certainly feels like the arcade, except that the controller is horrible and it makes it difficult on your hand to play this kind of game. I'm getting my ass handed to me and I haven't even gotten past the first screen. But at least there's no Bimmy and Jimmy here. Let's try Donkey Kong Jr. for the Atari 7800. Well, the graphics are way better than the Atari 2600, and the gameplay still has that distinctive charm that made Atari famous. These controllers are way too stiff. I guess that's why Atari made an alternate controller that feels and looks like the NES controller. But this controller was very rare to find, and it was only released in Europe, so good luck finding it. Last but not least, the classic Galaga. It definitely is much that closer to the arcade than the 2600 version, but still the fucking controller makes it hard to play after a while. Playing these games with the European controllers is much easier, although they still had to fuck it all up by making the D-pad look like a small joystick, which makes it a little awkward to use. Well, in conclusion, both the Atari 7800 and the Atari 5200 are great consoles. They each have some cool things and they each have some bad things. But if I had to choose between the two of them, I'd definitely go with the Atari 5200. Even with its shitty ass controller, it still provided some great gameplay for its time, and it had some pretty innovative features that the Atari 7800 did not have. So, if you want to see my next video, tune in because we're gonna have some... Oh no, no.